I know we were having some authentication issues earlier. I just wanted to make sure you've gotten in. Perfect. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. If you'd like to rise and pledge allegiance to our flag, you're welcome to do so. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Thank you for welcoming us. It was amazing food. We appreciate the welcome there, and we appreciate being able to be here in Owyhee. And I was just talking about technical issues, and then I lost everything else. So with that said, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Move to approve. Second.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I vote aye as well. Motion passes. And if you'll bear with me just a little bit today while we're going through things, I'll be acting as secretary a little bit as well, just keeping track of things. At this time, we'd like to welcome Ms. Gracie Zamudio. Thank you for being our student board member. We appreciate you being here today. And I do not have a bio for you, so I am going to put you on the spot just a little bit and give you the opportunity to tell us a little bit about yourself and what your aspirations are as you move forward.
Okay. Hi, I'm Gracie Zamudio. I'm daughter of Christina Jones and Victor Zamudio. I'm a senior here at Owyhee High School. I attended this school from kindergarten to 11th grade, and beginning my senior year, from January to June, I attended Battleborn Youth Challenge Academy, and it's a military residential school. And from there, I learned how much a lot. I chose to go there because I want something new. I've been here all my life, and being on a reservation, it's we're isolated, and it's something. It got old, and so I wanted something better for myself because I wasn't really making great decisions at the time, and I knew I need to put a stop to that. So I heard about the program, and I got to a point in my life like, okay, I need to step up. So yeah, I signed up, and I lived there 5 months with like 60 other kids, and we endured a lot, we learned a lot there together. And we had, it was completely different from here. I had a 16-day work schedule up from 4:30 to 8 o'clock. We did PT twice a day. After the first 2 weeks there, the first 2 weeks was called, what's it called? Oh, I forget, but there was the first 2 weeks where we didn't do no school. It's where we got to learn our new lifestyle and everything. And then after that, then we got into schooling, but we would still wake up at 4:30, and we do PT, physical fitness training. And after that, we would go back to our base, and we would do shower procedures, and we'd also do like our chores. We would clean our bay, like simple house chores, and then we would get ready, and we would wait to go get called to chow breakfast. And after that, then we would march to first formation, and after first formation, then we'd be sent off to class. And it's like a regular school day. And then during lunch, we would meet up in our gym. It's called the Berry Hall, and we would do lunch formation, and then we would go to lunch, and sometimes we would march, yeah, or we would do a running cadence. We did cadences and stuff like that, like military, right? And we would also wear the uniforms, and we would have Yeah. Oh, our hair would always be up buns, and the boys' heads were shaved. And after after lunch, then we would go back to school, finish it off, and afterwards we would get up information again in Berry Hall, and then we'd split everybody into two groups, and we'd go to case management, and it's where it was like a character development class. That's where we did our OSHA, our food handler safety stuff, our CPR, CPR certified. I have my OSHA and everything. Oh, and so that we'd have an hour of that, and then we would switch off to with our our sergeants or TLs, and we would do some PT, and then we'd depending on our behavior, we would get free time, and then after that, then we would go to final formation, and then from there we would head to dinner chow, and then we would go back to our our base, and we would do shower procedures, and we would have to be quiet during that because doing shower procedures because it was a safety issue, and we couldn't talk or nothing until everybody was done showering, and afterwards you could read, write letters home, or you could talk amongst your peers, and then lights up was at 8 o'clock. And so yeah, that was like my day at Battleborn for 7 days a week with her 5 months, 5.5 months. And some things I learned there, like being there, there's a lot of different races, people from different states, or people from there was people from Utah, Colorado, North Dakota, and so learning, and there's also the backgrounds, and learning from different perspectives of amongst kids your age. I learned a lot. You realize that, well, I realized, I'm a lot more appreciative being back home, and I don't take things for granted. Another one, hold on, kind of last. But one thing I really learned is I live by that I learned there is embrace the suck. And because if you're stuck in a suck, it's gonna get suckier. So you gotta learn to embrace the suck and do better, because and you use the help that you get and take advantage of it, and just listen as long as it's it's good for you. Like, take that help, because you go a long way. Like I came a long way from where I was last year during this time. I'm like so proud of myself. Like now, after I finished high school, I'm doing medical assistant training, and from there on, I'll be done by the end of August. And from there on, I'm gonna go to schooling for radiology, and I'm gonna take that into the military. And from there on, well, I was wanting to go to the military straight after high school, but I did my research, and if you get some education before going to the military, and then you enlist, then you get a higher rank, and higher rank is higher paid. So that's what I was going for. So, that's my plans. And so yeah.
That's awesome.
Great. Thank you, Gracie.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Welcome. Should have given me a heads up on that. Thank you again, Gracie. We appreciate that. We'll now go into recognition of our STEM Fair Grand, STEM Fair Grand Prize winner, Dakota Matza.
He's right here, and he has a slideshow for you. I'm the I'm the high school teacher. He will present to you. I think the best thing is near the screen, maybe.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Dan.
I think it will show up.
Hello, good to see you guys all here. I'm Dakota Matson. I won the STEM Fair Grand Prize. It was unexpected. way I was notified, I was coming home after like a long bus ride. I was sleeping. Woke up on the floor. I don't know how I did that. I got a text from her saying that I wanted to come back up the next day. So I didn't do all that. But this is my installation. I mean, this is my presentation. It's about installation for greener buildings. The question is, which insulating material with a smaller carbon footprint is effective in retaining heat and more cost efficient?
Perfect. Is it touchscreen?
Hypotheses, or this is all the stuff that was on my board, so I have to move stuff around more stuff, but this is kind of coming from my board and all that stuff. So my hypotheses, I hypothesize that the sheet wool for retaining heat most efficiently, and wool is like a densely packed natural material and has been used for like keeping people warm in colder climates and different places. So that's what I was working on. I thought my second thought was recycled clothing, as I'm trying to find ways of using old stuff and turning it into new stuff or unusual stuff. And I came up with recycled clothing. I thought it would also be a good insulator, but it would be less effective than sheet wool. Another material that I looked up was hemp wool, and I used it. It was a good R15, and I also use fiberglass R15 as like a positive control to see the difference between all that. Then this is my experimental procedure. Down here you see all the pictures of the box we used and when it was stuck. So a box constructed from plywood with walls, enough room to fit insulation in, had floor and ceiling, which is also had enough space for insulation. That's different types of insulation. There are 5 centimeters between the double walls. The double walls were allowed for the insulation of approximately 5 centimeters or 2 inches. Different types of insulation in the floor and the walls, and 6.4 centimeters in the roof. Materials tested were sheet wool, discarded clothing, and hemp. 5 centimeters of insulating material was added to the floors of the box. And another 6.4 centimeters to the roof to keep the stuff in. Then R15 fiberglass insulation was used as a positive control, which we used the other slide. Then no insulation in the box was a negative control. Part 3. We then added a deep purifier with hot water or boiling water. It came up to 86 degrees. That was placed inside each insulated box. The water temperature was measured 4 times every 2 hours for each type of insulation used. The decrease in water temperature was recorded for each insulation material. This is another picture of the box we used and how we experimented. Results. The sheet wool kept the water in the test box warmer than the other test insulation, even slightly warmer than the normal fiberglass, which is R15. Which is a positive control. And fiber insulation came in next behind fiberglass. Also with good heat retaining properties, recycled clothing was the least effective in the experiment, but better than no insulation, so negative control. And this is a graph of all the materials we use in the insulation. As you can see, the sheet wool is just a little bit better than the regular fiberglass. Then it came in next with the hemp insulation, just a little bit lower than the fiberglass. So the carbon clothing is pretty far behind. Then my hypothesis was confirmed. People installation kept the water in the text box warmer than the other types of insulation. Hemp insulation was also affected, but slightly less than the sheep wool and Argentine glass insulation. Both sheep wool and hemp fiber are renewable resources. In addition, industrial hemp absorbs carbon dioxide while growing, so it's a carbon sink. The absorbed carbon dioxide becomes locked in with hemp fiber, and hemp remains a carbon sink even after it is harvested. And this is the prices. During this fair, STEM fair, a lot of the judges came up to me and asked for the prices of each one. So these are the prices for the regular fiberglass. It is around $1.13 between 88 cents and 164 cents per square foot in the state of Nevada. Sheep wool installation costs between $1.10 and $3.10. The hemp wool installation cost around $2.35, around there per square foot. Each of these prices are from the state of Nevada. These are my references. I got all my stuff from. I think that's the end of the slideshow.
Great, thank you, Dakota. Any comments or questions from the board? Don't go too far there.
Yeah,
Mr. Matza.
I just say great work. I like the way your evaluation is put together. I like the scientific process you followed very closely, and it's done within a controlled environment. So it looks like your results are well, I can see why you won.
Then this is also some examples. If you guys want to touch that, it's okay. I want like give you
Which
the
one's the fiberglass?
none of my
Oh,
fiberglass.
none of them are.
Yeah. So we got this from Hempiculture. It's located in Jerome,
Okay.
around outside Jerome.
They actually sell that as insulation. Huh?
Yeah, and most of these are
Interesting.
like they're still working on it. Like this one right here is recycled denim.
Okay. Looks like what I pulled from the dryer.
Yeah.
And so what's the difference between these two?
So this one is the normal one, which is the sheep wool, and this one's one they're working on, it's fire retardant.
Okay.
Then this one right here is used from discarded time.
Yeah.
This one right here, it's used in studios. So there's really sound.
Like sound dampening material. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Anything else from the board?
Just keep up the good work.
Are you continuing this next year?
Yeah, I plan on it a little bit. I
Okay.
don't know. I might work on something new.
Okay,
What grade did you say you're in?
I'm a sophomore.
Sophomore.
Yes.
great. Well done.
Thank you.
Other things to look at just as you move forward, if you do continue with this, perhaps taking it to the next step would also be the carbon footprint to be able to take the subjects from beginning to end. One of the things that I heard is that clothing itself is tremendously high carbon levels to be able to produce clothing.
Yeah.
So good job on recycling it. That might be something also to be able to recover some of that carbon waste. So great job. We've got a presentation for you and we'd like to shake your hand if we may.
Thank you.
Yeah, congrats. Good job.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thanks.
Good job. Certificate of achievement. Keep up the good work.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Great
Thanks.
job.
Have a good day.
Mrs. Dan, it's my understanding that over the past 5 or 6 years, students coming out of your program have been tremendously successful at the STEM fair. Would you like to talk a little bit about that or maybe share a few trade secrets?
Well, I can only say thank you that we have these opportunities here, and I am fortunate in that I have a few small classes, so it is easier to work on research projects, because most of them are done during school time. And the other thing is we do have some exceptional students who don't like the work or no, who are involved in a lot of activities. Because they're, he, for example, is in track, he's in FFA, he did a science fair, a STEM fair project. So many of our exceptional students, they just do everything.
Great. Well, thank you and congratulations to you as well.
Okay, thank you.
All right, at this time, we'll move into 1.06, input from the public. I know that we had some folks that had signed in, but we're not quite sure who might want to speak. So if you would like to speak, if you'll go ahead and come up close to the table, because we do have microphones, we want to be able to capture on our recording for the minutes. You're welcome to do so. Is there anyone that would like to say anything for the record? All right, there'll be another opportunity at the end of the meeting as well, if there's something that you'd like to change your mind on. Moving ahead now into our agenda, item 2.01, receipt, review, and possible approval of foreign language adoption proposal. And this is for possible approval. Come on up, Mr. Allen.
Hi, guys. So we decided to do, the way we decided to do our adoptions is we wanted to do a big one and then a small one. So last year we did math. Obviously, that was a huge adoption. We did world languages this year, and that was much, much smaller, as you can see from the price quotes we got. 2 teachers, a French and a Spanish teacher at Elko High, a Spanish teacher at Wendover, and a Spanish teacher at Spring Creek Middle. As you can see, the cost is going to be much, much lower. I think we budgeted initially was it 500, Cody, and then we reduced it to 3, and then we came in under 100,000. The way we decided to do it, and this was the teacher's idea, is they said they didn't need they didn't need textbooks for every kid, and we could buy digital licenses for every kid. So if you look at those price breakdowns, we've got classroom set of books for each level, and then we bought additional licenses for the level 1 for both Spanish and French, because that's where most of the kids were. For the French, we looked at books from Carnegie, which is the one that the French teacher chose, and then Wayside was the other one that we piloted. And then for Spanish, it was Wayside was the one they chose, and Savas was the other one that we piloted. We did 2 4-week pilots. We had books down in our office if anybody wanted to come take a look at them. And these were the choices the teachers made.
Terrific. Thank you, sir.
And then just to go forward, the plan next year is to do the science adoption. And I think, Candace, I need to talk with the teachers, but I think we could probably do it similar to what we did with foreign language. If we can buy those additional digital licenses, and they just have the classroom set of textbooks. It seems like that's the way the teachers have wanted to go. So that will give us a little bit more cost savings there as well.
Okay. Comments from the board?
I'll start.
Go ahead.
Digital license for the French. I saw on the other, well, no, I mean, so I saw under the Spanish showed 7 years, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
For the French, I might not have read it or something. Is that an annual, or is that just, we're gonna have those for 7 years?
It's the 7-year license.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I didn't see it. Okay.
And that's standard, and I'm a little bit concerned with that because our language arts, those licenses run up next year.
Yeah.
And we're not gonna be able to, since those were the most recent of the purchase we've done in the past.
Okay.
I don't feel it's appropriate that we do those again, so I've got a call in or an email into Thea with Savas to talk to her about how that will work. We just need to purchase a 1-year or a 2-year license, and we talked before, and she said we could do that just to get us by.
Okay.
I'd like to do, our social studies curriculum is really, really, really old.
I would like you to do that.
So I'd like to do science, and our discussion was to do science next year because that's one that we get tested on and it counts in our star rating, and then try to do social studies the next year if we can, if we've got the money. If not, we'll do another little one and then go to social studies the next year, and then we're gonna be back to language arts pretty quick.
Okay.
Additional comments from the board?
I move that we approve the foreign language adoption proposal. Second.
All righty. Brooke, I'm giving that one to you. Further discussion?
I just appreciate that they were able to come in so far under what they initially budgeted. I think that's wonderful.
It's a nice change from what we're used to seeing.
Yeah, when I got the quotes, I was shocked because last year was millions of dollars and this was significantly less.
Mr. Allen, you said this, another one of the vendors was Savast. Do we have a quote on that one, or is that built into either Carnegie
I
or,
didn't get a quote from them because that wasn't.
because that we're not going that direction? Okay.
And I can't say they were exact same, the prices would have been, but it's
Similar.
yeah.
Okay. I appreciate it. Further discussion? There's a motion on the table. All in favor, please say aye.
All right.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Motion passes. Thank you very much, Mr. Allen. 2.02 is receipt, review, and possible approval of the ECSD and Innovative District Success Goals for ACing accountability for the 23-24 and 24-25 school years. Mr. Smith.
Yes. Thank you. I gotta sit down because I have some notes so I can make sure I cover what I want to here for you. So I'll just give a little bit of background. There's some background information there included in the agenda about this ACing accountability process, but I'll just give everyone a little bit of information about it. And there's also a document attached there that has two goals that we put together to put in front of you tonight. So again, like it says on the agenda there, this ACing accountability is something that came about through the legislature and Governor Lombardo. When he put together his budget, there was some additional funding for education included in that. And as a part of that additional funding, there was this plan to have some different accountability measures. I use different a little bit, maybe tongue in cheek, I guess, because some of the measures, a lot of them that were included in there were kind of your traditional things, testing, MAP testing, SBAC testing, graduation rates, some of those things that we traditionally see in accountability measures like the STAR rating and NSPF that we have in our data report card. But one of the things that was a little bit different about it was there was an opportunity for each district to create what they've called innovative district success goals. I'm gonna make sure I gotta read it off there because they've been different terms for it, so I'm gonna make sure I get it right. But these innovative district success goals, the intention there is that there's an opportunity for some items that maybe aren't traditionally part of accountability measures to be included, or things that are unique or maybe a little bit different for each district, and an opportunity to show some of the things that are going well for each district. And so what we have in front of you there is a couple of examples that we've put together. And the timing of this is a little bit different. I mean, you can see that they're goals for this school year, even though we're 3/4 of the way through that. And part of the reason for that was when this was first sent out, it was really vague what exactly these district innovative goals were going to look like. And so superintendents across the state got together, agreed that there was not quite enough guidance on it. And so they asked for some additional guidance from this Department of Education. When it went back to them, it stayed there for a while. And we didn't get any information about it until the very end of February. And then it was like, oh, and now that you have this guidance, this is due like immediately. So we're actually even a little bit behind the 8 ball here, according to their timeline. And so as a result of that, we looked at a lot of things that we've done over the last 1.5 to 2 years. We spent quite a bit of time putting together a strategic plan where we had representation from the board. Susan was a part of that. We had administrators, we had teachers, we had our support staff represented. I went through a long process there. We presented that information to you, shared that with you guys a couple of times. And so we looked at some of the information that came there, and you can see that we've really made, I think, a concerted effort to make sure that what we're putting together here for this measure is tied to the strategic plan, specifically pillar number 1, preparing students for the future, and pillar number 4, student and staff wellness. And then we also took into consideration, I know that you all as a board spent some time putting some board goals together, and we spent some time working together in some workshops doing that. And part of the thought process with these particular goals that are in front of you tonight was that the board goals represented through that workshop process and that discussion, goals for, I think it was actually I have them in front of me, second and third grade and fourth through seventh grade. And so you'll notice that the two that are on here are primarily at the secondary level, either high school or even 7th through 12th. And so a lot of the reasoning there was that when you take those board goals, our strategic plan, and these goals, and you take them as a whole, it kind of encompasses the whole spectrum of the time that our students are with us, K through 2nd through 12th grade at least. And so taken together, it represents sort of an overall picture, an opportunity to look at all the different time frames when students are our students in our schools. And so that was part of the thinking that went into that. We also wanted to make sure, I just lost my train of thought there. Not sure where I was going with that. The other big part of it was in that first goal with the work-based learning experiences. Those experiences are things that get kids interested in career opportunities, and that ties kids into CTE courses, which we know is a big thing throughout our communities. Whether it's a mining related industry or an agriculture related industry. So these experiences, these work-based learning experiences, keeping track of that helps continue to make that a priority in our communities and within our school district. So that was the other big thing that was a big part of our rationale for settling on these two goals that are in front of you tonight. So I don't know if you want me to go through the goals or present them to the public, or if you guys have had a chance.
We've got the goals. The goals were put in as public comment or public content, so the public should have had access to it. With that said, if the board would like to have additional information on that, you're welcome to say, yep, read through them, Mr. Smith, but otherwise, I think we're good with what we have. Okay, I think we're good.
Yeah, we're good.
Additional comments from the board, or unless you have something else, right? Sorry.
That was
Okay.
what I wanted to get out there.
Okay.
Yeah, just.
And so the approval that you're seeking, is this required by the state? Or is this just something that you're looking for the board to validate, I guess, what you've already
To the
done?
best of my knowledge, it's not required by the state at all.
Okay.
Just something that Mr. Anderson definitely wanted to put on a public meeting and have an opportunity to present to you as a board and to the public
Okay.
to see what we've come up with.
So it is for possible action. We can take action on this if we'd like. It doesn't seem there's anything pressing if we don't take action, but there's no reason not to take action unless the board is not so inclined to do so.
I don't need to do anything. You have something?
I was just gonna say, I think these are great. A lot of these are what keeps kids coming to school.
Sure.
And we don't measure some of those things. Some kids don't come to school because they just love English, right?
Right.
But we always like, how's everybody doing in English language arts? But kids do come to school because they want to do a STEM fair project. They want to learn about things. They want to be involved in sports. They want to be involved in FFA. They want to be successful in a career. And so I think these goals are fantastic and something that maybe the whole state should look at more, measuring success more like this than just how are we doing with our math scores?
Right.
How are we doing in standardized testing? Because this is an opportunity to look at what kids love and what keeps them in school.
Yeah, and that's an excellent
I love
point. I'm kind of excited to see what some of the other districts have come up with too. So like you said, we can kind of look at that and maybe look at a statewide push for something other than test scores.
Yeah, and so I sit on the Commission for Innovation and Excellence in Education, and we have a meeting next week. And I'm keeping this with me. I'm excited to see this because I think this is more student focused than some accountability measures that we use. Because we want our students to love to learn, and these kind of goals, I think, recognize what keeps students in school wants and gets in there to learn in the first place. So that being said, I move to approve the ECSD Innovative District Success Goals for Acing Accountability for the 23-24 and 24-25 school years.
Second.
Thank you very much. Been properly moved and seconded. Is there further discussion from the board? Grace, I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot. If do you see anything in there as far as, because I take that back. Did you have the opportunity to review the agenda and see what those goals were. One dealing with additional workplace learning opportunities or work-based learning opportunities. And go ahead, Sarah.
Yes, I did have a look at it, but I didn't understand it.
Okay, all right, no worries at all. All right, and it has been properly moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Vote aye as well. Motion passes. Thanks again, Ray. Appreciate it. All right, we then are going to move into 2.03. Mr. Krinka is making his way up. Thank you, sir. And as soon as I get my computer working again, 2.03 is the receipt, review, and possible approval to declare all substitute teacher, substitute paraeducator, substitute maintenance custodian, substitute bus driver, substitute bus aides, substitute food services, substitute secretary, substitute health aide, and substitute nurse positions as critical need positions effective for July 1, 2024 through June 30 of 2026. This is for possible action. And during the motion, I think if we just said the aforementioned positions, that may make it a little easier to write the minutes. With that, Mr. Krinka.
Okay, we'll start with my first statements are both for 2.03 and 2.04. On the preface that critical needs positions are district-wide, and when we consider critical needs, we consider them at the district-wide level. So if there is a school specifically, let's say Spanish at Elko High School, we know it might be absent, it's obviously critically needed. Don't do, unless directed differently, we don't do critical needs for Spanish at Elko High School, those types of things. Now, why he's a little different, because at the recommendation of the state superintendent, we had the recommendation to make all jobs at Hawaii critical needs, and that's still going to take place. It was done last year, and it has another 2 years in the same preface. So if you're missing, like, well, why? I mean, my opinion, all positions are critical, but we can only designate certain ones to get through the process. So when we're talking about district-wide, and when we're considering things, we're considering district-wide. And for the substitutes, that's the case. We've had this for the last 2 years. It's been very helpful. We have retirees, and definitely most. I'm not sure about food service, but definitely all the rest of them. We have retirees, the people that are most experienced, and come back and can continue to draw their PERS retirement while they act as a substitute, because PERS has a cap of how much you can make. I think it's around 27,000 a year. And then it impacts your PERS. This allows them to make more and work more without impacting their PERS.
Thank you.
Questions on 2.03?
I'm assuming 2.04 is going to be fairly similar.
2.04 is similar in the fact that the only difference is this is the first time we've done psychs. The subs, this is a renewal. This is the first time we've done psychs. We just had another person that's a new hire that's going to be moving. So we have 2 vacancies. When you only have 7 or 8 psychs in a district our size, especially with the amount of travel we have, and the per pupil is much lower than recommended. Of course, the recommendation in comparison to the rest of the state, based on a 2022 article, everybody's in the same boat. So it's not necessarily what Elko's doing. It's just labor shortage in this position. So hopefully good. The other thing that helps us do is it gives us the opportunity within the teaching contract to offer more years than just 5 towards their salary. Right now, the teaching contract only allows someone from Arizona to move here. We give 5 years towards their salary, 5 years credit. By making it a critical need, we can basically give them the amount of years that they have and then increase their salary and make us more competitive.
So to make sure I understand that correctly, if somebody from Arizona has 20 years experience and they want to teach math, we only give them 5 years credit on the salary.
By contract.
However, if they want to become a psychologist, if they're licensed to be a school psychologist with 20 years, we can give them.
We can give them more. I'll have to check on how much more, but it's.
So it's not the limit to the 5. Okay.
To 5, and we're limited to 5
by contract. Okay. Thank
Psychs
you.
are covered under the teacher contract. They're certified.
Okay. Thank you. Comments or questions from the board?
I'd like to go ahead and move that we approve all those positions listed in 2.03 as critical need positions effective for July 1, 2024 through June 30th, 2026.
Second.
All righty, thank you very much. It's moved and seconded. Further discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Vote aye as well. 2.03 passes. Is there action that the board would like to take on 2.04?
I'll make the same motion on 2.04 that we declare school psychologists also as critical needs positions effective July 1, 2024 through June 30th, 2026.
Second.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. Further board discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? I vote aye as well. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Thank you for staying up here. We'll move into 2.05, which is receipt, review, and possible approval to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Elko County Classroom Teachers Association, amending the previous agreements on professional development days and the length of the contract day for the upcoming 2024-2025 school year. This is for possible action. And I want to give just a little bit of information here. I had requested that this item be put onto the agenda for board discussion and or approval, because this was one of the items that had come up when we originally agreed to the 4-day week. There were, I believe, 5 points, and I was trying to find the exact 5 points, but I cannot find that currently, that needed to take place with the 4-day, or I guess 5 conditions that needed to take place with the 4-day week. We've already since elected to not have the lunch provided or have the Friday additional curriculum as needed. This was one of those other points, was to ensure that professional development was happening, if I recall correctly, on the Fridays, or at least as was recommended by the Superintendent's Advisory Committee. This would remove that requirement from the consideration. Did I cover that pretty much all right? Okay. Anything else you want to add to this, Mr. Krinke?
Well, there's a lot to go about, and I don't know, can I start with questions and then maybe an explanation? I mean, the reason we went initially back to the 4 days is because we could get those professional development days. And there's one at the beginning of the year before students show up, and then we had 3 sporadically on throughout the Friday. This MOU is asking that we eliminate those 3 during the year and take that time and add it to the contract day. Most people, when we presented this in December 2022, saw the need, and there was a need for those full length days. But what I'm hearing, and I agree, what they didn't realize is how much time they needed on the regular day to do their usual PLCs, their teacher conferences, they're working with each other within that contract time. With the sporadic days, even though it's great for typically someone from central office to have a professional development and where everybody comes into, the teachers, and I have a letter from the administration, the admin association, which I forwarded on to President McCarty, was the fact that they prefer continuous professional development with those PLCs, that extra time on the day, where they can meet weekly and have just the continuation of what they're doing, rather than have to wait a month and a half or another month and a half, those sorts of things. So they prefer that. From a fiscal standpoint, it doesn't change anything but their salaries. It's the number that we go from 8 minutes and 9 to 8 minutes and 19. It's within seconds of what was before, and it was 8 minutes and 19 is the number I got from the union. You do the math, it's within seconds of what's actually in the contract per day. And last return of thought. Oh, and even anecdotally speaking, I'm going to guess that this will reduce the amount of comp time and overtime put in for IEPs at the end of the day. Because even though you might say it's 10 minutes, 10 minutes is still 10 minutes. And a lot of times those meetings may not fit in those 10 minutes. This gives principals enough time to have a full staff meeting or a full PLC. And that's why both principals and teachers want this.
Cody, define PLC, or at least give us the word for instead of the acronym. Professional learning community. So if I'm understanding correctly, instead of making the entire district come together for these 3 days that have chosen, each school site will now have the ability to manage their professional development to what fits them and their educators better.
And they've done that before. You can, like a department meeting, so to speak, we've had those when I was teaching. We had those types of things, and this gives them more time to go over the data specific to their schools and make those changes and recommendations within their school sites.
Great. Thank you for the clarification. Additional questions or comments?
I know after we did this, we did receive a letter from a teacher in Wendover who they were already doing the 4-day week, and she liked the way that they were doing it. She thought it worked very well and didn't love that we were switching things over to this way. So I think even from the beginning, we had some people that had experience in the 4-day week that thought this wasn't going to work well. And so now after having tried it and seeing that the rest of the teachers are of the same mind says a lot.
Okay. Thank you.
May I
I still
ask
have-
a question?
Please, Susan.
Could I just ask, are you going to keep track of, you mentioned that it might change comp time, et cetera. Are you going to keep track of that so we can have that information next year?
Yes, well, we could keep track of, obviously, we have new people in the finance world. And a lot of people, as you know, don't turn in their comp time until the end of the year. So we can look at last year's comp time compared to this year's and then compare it again to next year's.
Okay. And then I just want to make sure I understand it correctly. So there's still the PD days before school, but not the ones during the school year. They'll just be the one day.
Right, so we had 4 PD days this year. 3 were during the school year and 1 was before, and in addition to the pre-service before school, the students came. We're still gonna have that first one. So we'll still have a 4-day week with this MOU before students show up. The other
Okay.
thing we'll still have is that January professional development day that we've always had. That one will still be in place. So we still have opportunities for full day convocation, full day professional development. We'll still have opportunities for people, just like when we were on the 5-day, to get professional development on Saturdays. Those types of things will still be available, except now they'll be on Fridays. We can't make it mandatory to attend unless we compensate them for it, but a lot of, just as in the past, on those Saturdays when we had professional development, people still do professional development without compensation because they recognize they have to get those hours to maintain their license and to better, obviously, educate their students.
And then that one full work day, it can't be divided up. It has to be like, they can't take 2 hours here and 2 hours there, or do they have that flexibility?
Are you referring to
wouldn't,
the 4
right?
days, the 4 days before students get there?
No, just the one full work day. Maybe I'm still misunderstanding this.
Okay, so if the January one is still under contract, and that half of it is left for the teachers and half for professional development.
Right.
And since we're still dealing with 4 days, counting on this one, it's 4 days, it's in contract. I'll have to look, but we've already had that. Since we did 4 days before last year, it's in contract how much is left to the teachers, and I'd have to look. I think it's like a day and a half is left reserved for the teachers. That way we just don't have straight PD and the teachers don't have time in their classrooms, but.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Additional comments or questions from the board? All righty, what is the pleasure of the board?
Make a motion to approve the MOU for a change in PD days at the end.
Okay. All right. Well, that was working. Okay, motion on the table. Is there further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I vote aye as well, and motion passes. Tracy, you seconded that, correct? Great, thank you.
Can I add something?
No, we've already made our decision. We have
It's okay,
moved
that's
on.
up to you. I know that it's an HR update. I know lots of times we're questioning on HR updates. We're right about where we were last year when it comes to hiring. Last year, we had hired 23 people, brand new to the district. This year we're at 21. It's roughly the same number of vacancies. The only difference is we have a lot more job offers out right now. So we've interviewed more people that just haven't responded to us recently. Our job fairs went much better this year. Last year, well, this year we've had 5 offers off those job fairs. Last year, we didn't even have an interview of any of the job fairs. Anecdotally speaking, our principals are saying that our salary is now comparable, at least to the surrounding states, not so much Utah, but Wyoming and Idaho and Montana, those areas that we usually get teachers from. And they're also saying that areas without the 4-day, the 4-day is an attraction. It's something different. It brings interest to our booth. It brings interest to like, hey, what actually get people to talk to us about things. We were at one in Wyoming and the principals there said that while we got 5 or 6 interviews at that one, the Nevada school district that offered much signing bonuses of like $5,000 and $10,000 for various positions, only got 2. So people are more interested in what they feel is quality of life more than money at this point. So I think we're doing okay. Of course, I don't have the data on those types of things, but and also with the raise that you guys approved, I've had lots of teachers say that it's keeping them from retiring. That helps their retirement by adding more years at that percentage. So they recognize that if they retire, they're leaving that money on the table, so to speak, and that by retiring now, rather than wait a year or 2, even though they're eligible, it's going to financially impact them to the point where it's not worth them retiring. Yeah.
Just a quick question on that too, though. And maybe it's just my perception, but I've seen a lot of retirement and resignation letters. Is it on par? Or does it just feel like they all came in?
The resignation's about on par, but retirement's less.
Is less?
Retirement's less. And last year at this point in the year, you had asked me previous year, and of course I wasn't here then. So we don't have a system to keep track of snapshots.
Yeah.
So we're lower on the retirements and about par for the resignations. Keep in mind that due tomorrow, the principals have to turn in their reemployment notices saying, hey, this person needs to be reemployed or not, recommendations. And then the teachers will get those letters about the 1st of May with their intent of whether or not to come back. And usually, just like last year, there's another balloon or another bubble. So I can get those numbers and email them to you.
Just curious. It just felt, I mean, I read them all and they hurt. I'm like, no, you need to stay. We need you. But it just, for whatever reason, felt like I'd read more this year than not. But that's good to hear. If I'm off there, my perception's off. That's good to hear.
Anything else on HR stance?
Great.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Krinka. All righty. Moving to 2.06, receipt, review, and possible approval of proposed changes to policy JGH, student welfare, death of student or staff. This is for possible action. For the public, I wanted to make sure that folks recognize that we've had multiple discussions on this, and we had a committee of professionals that got together that first drafted the language that was then also, and in that committee of professionals were mental health professionals, education professionals, legal professionals, as well as our superintendent. That came back before the board. We then heard a lot of comment from the communities themselves. I formed an ad hoc committee involving a number of members of the community, including 2 educators, professionals in the mental health side of things, but many community members came back with yet another change on that. Had that proposal 2 weeks ago. Literally an hour before the meeting, we received one more public comment with recommendations to consider another mental health professional. And so the superintendent and I went through those recommendations that came in too late for the board to be able to consider on the last time. We accepted, I shouldn't say accepted, we accepted the premise that those be included in the policy and prepared to get ready to send that back out to the board. However, there was one policy that was recommended by the mental health professional that was dramatically different from what the board had discussed at our last meeting. And so there are, I don't want to say conflicting, but there are two vastly different pieces of language towards the end of the policy, specifically dealing with the graduations themselves. So wanted to throw all of that out there, make sure that everyone knew where we were at. And with that, I open it up to the board. After board comment, I do have a public comment that was received, but I wanted to give the opportunity for the board to speak first. And if there's anyone here specifically to comment on policy JGH, we'll be happy to take your comments as well after we hear some board comments.
Matt, would you just explain the ones that you said were vastly different? Can we just go over those really quick?
Absolutely. So we're going to go down to section 7, funerals and memorials, subsection D. After the board meeting on the 2nd of April, the event for graduation had indicated that subsection D2, or maybe it's E2, I apologize.
That's now E2.
E2 now would read, upon request or approval by the parent guardian, a chair for the deceased student may be added to those chairs assembled for students participating in a high school graduation ceremony. The location of the chair shall be designated by the school's graduation committee. A graduation cap may be placed on the seat of the chair. The graduation cap shall be subject to the rules and regulations governing those worn by the graduates in that color, adornment, etc. The chair may not otherwise be decorated or distinguished with pictures, flowers, or any other items. A graduation chair will only be made available to a deceased student who attended at least one day at the school. A graduation chair may not be present at more than one school for the same deceased student. Subsection E3 reads, there will not be a moment of silence or reading of names of deceased student or staff, though a respectful statement recognizing those not in attendance is allowed as approved by the school's graduating committee. The potential alternate language would replace both subsections E2 and E3 and would read, while the graduation ceremony is not a time to provide a tribute to those who died, since this will shift the focus away from the celebration of graduating students, it can be a time to briefly acknowledge those members of the school community who are unable to be present due to death. With permission from the deceased family, names of students and staff who have passed can be read before the graduates are presented with their diplomas, perhaps followed by a moment of silence to provide an opportunity for personal reflection. The reading of student names will only be made available to a deceased student who attended at least one day at the school and may not be read at more than one school for the same deceased student. That second language was what was presented and proposed by Mr. David S, because I am spacing on his name and I apologize for that. No disrespect intended for that professional. But that was the language that came out of the documentation that he recommended and proposed. So that's the two languages that are not cohesive, and the superintendent and I did not feel that we'd be able to mesh the two of them together well enough. And so we elected to present both of those as alternates. Does that help?
Mhm.
Okay. Also, for the record, at the meeting on April 3rd, the discussion of the graduation cap not having any other adornment was also discussed. That was something that was the language that was proposed was defeated on a 4-3 vote. And that was felt by Mr. Anderson that should be carried on as just a discussion point. It was not included in this proposed language because it was defeated. Is there comment from the board, or should I read the public comment at this time?
Can I
Go ahead,
just,
Susan.
no, if someone else has something first, that's okay.
Nope, it's all yours.
I was just gonna say, I think it's Schoenfeld. I'm not sure how you
Yes,
pronounce
thank you.
it, but.
Thank you very much.
I would like to say I appreciate, I don't know if it was the team you put together, whoever it was that did take his language into consideration and updated what we see here for the policy. I do appreciate that. My own feeling about, let me get the right one here. 7E, right? With
Okay.
the potential alternate language that would replace the 2 and 3. I do like that myself, but and I do like the other changes that were made. So that's just my 2 cents.
Thank you.
Can I jump in first?
Mr. Anderson, welcome. Yes, please.
Hello. I've still got a few extra minutes, so I figured I'd jump in here. Thanks for the way you presented that, and Susan, I appreciate your comment. I just want to make sure that I explain that. So I know, like for example, Susan just said she likes that alternate language. The reason, and Matt mentioned that we didn't feel like the 2 sections jive very well. The reason we don't feel like they jive very well is because, and I suppose people could interpret things differently, but a lot of the public input we got about this policy was very focused on having a chair, having something like that at graduation. And in that alternate language, it is my interpretation that when it says graduation is not a time for tributes, to me, that means we would do away with the chair portion of what we discussed. And it would almost be the inverse of what we currently have in language, where right now, from last meeting, we were proposing a chair with the cap and no reading of names. This one to me infers get rid of all that other stuff and stick to a reading of names and leave it at that. And that is why we didn't feel they jive. And I suppose someone could interpret the nature of the language of not a time for tribute because it would distract, and maybe someone could say, oh well, a chair isn't a tribute, but it was the concept of a chair or pictures or gowns or anything dedicated to the students or deceased community members was glaringly absent from any of his language. And so we felt, I just feel like it's important to let you know that it is my interpretation of this language that we would be doing away with something that our public comment has had a lot to do with, and the ad hoc committee that was put together felt like that was an acceptable compromise to not do the reading of names, but to do the cap and chair. And so it would be in direct opposition to that is the way I interpret that. So I just wanted to make sure that we're all clear on why we thought it didn't jive. I just wanted to go into a little more detail about that.
Thank you, CJ. I appreciate that. And I was trying to find the comment. I believe Mr. Schoenfeld actually commented on that itself, in that he specifically, I believe, said he recommends against a chair and instead referenced us to that document where we pulled this language almost word for word. There were some minor modifications that CJ and I made that were relevant to our district specifically. And while I'm there were also some comments within Mr. Schoenfeld's response that basically said he didn't know really what we were referring to. And that was, again, because it was specific to our district. So we read those, we considered those, but then we ultimately dismissed those comments because it was specific to us. He didn't have that background, and we didn't feel it was worth time to carry on a back and forth to get him up to speed with where we already were with the district. So just to kind of, I guess, full disclosure on that, let everyone know there.
That was why that was why I said what I said, was based on his comments.
Yes, thank you. And I appreciate that, Susan. Okay, so we did receive public comment. It says, Good afternoon. Please read this for public comment if time allows, and I am requesting to be anonymous. I apologize for the late submission. I am writing in regards to changes that are being proposed for district policy JGH, student welfare death of student and or staff. I would like you all to consider and keep in mind that this policy is not only for students, but staff. It seems most comments and discussion is centered around students, and more so students that have committed suicide. There have been students and staff that have passed due to accidents and natural causes in our district in recent years as well. Let's not forget them. I have concerns that the board may be heavily reacting to the group of individuals that have been attending meetings and being vocal in what they deem fitting to grieve and honor their loved ones that have passed. Though I sympathize with them, we have others to consider. We all grieve differently. What works for one doesn't another. In the end, not everyone will be happy with the outcome. It is your job as the board to be okay with that. I don't want to take up any more of your time, so I will make this brief. I like that a baby ad in the yearbook can be purchased for what should have been that student's senior year, or if a group of teachers or students wants to put an ad that is in memory of a staff member, that should be done. I don't think any special treatment should be given. Parents and business owners pay to place those ads, and others should as well. In regards to graduation, I think a simple chair with cap and gown is great. If we begin to allow photos, flowers, or balloons, special positioning of a chair, or allow a moment of silence, it begins to overshadow our students that are alive and celebrating this milestone in their life. It draws attention to that chair and not those chairs with our graduates in them. Our graduates should be happy and celebrating, not crying or reliving the loss of a friend or teacher. You as a board have a tough job. I urge you to keep things neutral. Consider more than those just grieving. By keeping these policies neutral allows for any type of deaths to be addressed without further uproar. There are many different scenarios in how a student or staff member may pass, and this policy needs to hold true to any type. The board has spent more than enough time trying to keep our community happy. Thank you for your time. Is there any additional public comment? Okay, I bring it back to the board for comment, questions, and or proposed action.
Mr. President,
Yes, ma'am.
knowing that we can still discuss after, I move that we approve policy JGH, the red line, without the potential alternate language on page 8, and also without the blue line language on page 8, item F2.
Okay. So I'm going to give everybody a moment to look at that.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion has been moved and seconded. And thank you, because I apologize. It was the portrait under yearbook, not photos under graduate, in which that vote took place. So I appreciate that. Okay. So motion on the table is to accept the red line without the potential alternate language and without the section of blue line under subsection 7F, correct? Okay, further discussion.
I want to add, I made my feelings on it clear in the last meeting. I do feel like we're being a little restrictive here, but I also do respect the process. That's why you get a second out of me. I don't necessarily agree with everything on it, but I feel like it's a good compromise. It puts us in a good position to move forward on this. I realize that not everybody's going to get everything that they want out of it, but we have followed the process, and I'll touch on it a little bit, but in my board member comments later, when I talk about the National School Board Conference that I went to, but 2 of the classes that I went to were on navigating sensitive issues. And I believe that that's a strong tenet in that, is to be able to compromise and to come together for a solution. Generally, the best solution is one when nobody's happy when they walk out, because everybody got a little bit of what they were looking for there. So I feel like that this is a good compromise.
Thank you. Further board comment?
Just want to echo that. Yeah, probably for different reasons, but I think we've spent enough time on this. We've had a lot of people put input into it. And I'm with, for the same reasons Jeff is stating, but I think we've done our due diligence on this, and moving forward is going to be good. So.
I agree with both of those as well. Like sometimes you have to make compromises, so. But I thank everyone for working on this.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I appreciate the things that were added in there after looking at the notes that the David Schoenfeld, his comments on different things. I feel like the ones that stood out to me and that I thought should be included are included. I think he had some really good insight into different things, like when we said that we would take them off the contact list, so they wouldn't be contacted, and he said some families may want to be contacted still and have updates on when games are and different things like that. So I thought he had a lot of good ideas, and everything that I liked, it has been included. And I agree with what the rest of the board members have said. There's one section that I wish was added, but understand that it takes compromise. So.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Byers and Ms. Nelson and Ms. Ballard. Any additional comments? I've done it to you again, Susan. I called you Susan Nelson again. How about Ms. Neal?
I was just laughing. I was
Sorry.
compromising. I was compromising.
Yeah. Well, please don't ever make me compromise you on that, because yeah. All right.
I was like, yeah, who are you talking to?
Yeah, sorry.
I know.
I do it. Yeah, I think it's 3 or 4 times I've done it to you now, just within the past year. So, all right, thank you. All right. So with that, there is a motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I vote aye as well. Motion passes. Thank you, board, and thank you very much to the community as well. This has been a very arduous journey, but I agree with what was said previously in that compromise has been made in many areas. I don't think there's anyone 100% satisfied with this policy, which means that we've probably passed a decent policy. So thank you all for your time and efforts on that. And we'll move forward now.
Can I just say one thing really quick too? I know that there are people who think that we as board members maybe have taken the people's comments that came in and switched the policy around to fit what they need, and maybe been too sensitive to what they are feeling and thinking and not thinking about everyone. And I really do believe that this policy is a good policy for everyone, because the way it's worded and the things that we've included do provide that choice for people who, because people do grieve differently, it provides choice for people to participate in different things if they know that that will benefit them, and be able to not participate if they know that's something that won't benefit them in their grieving process. So I really do think we have come up with a policy that will be good for all.
Thank you. Moving now on to 2.07, receipt, review, and possible approval of proposed changes to policy BCB, board officers. This is for possible approval. As I mentioned last time when this was brought up, it was brought to the district's attention and to legal's attention that our current policies did not cover all of the things that need to be done, including assigning the board secretary as, the board president as signing the minutes versus having the board secretary sign the minutes, which in practicality has been what's been going on. Additionally, it did not allow for the electronic signature of invitations for bids for public work contracts. So policy BCB has been modified to allow those changes. And does anyone have any comments or questions on that?
My question is just that this is the first time we're seeing it, correct? That should either be, we
I couldn't
provided.
remember if, go ahead, sorry.
Well, we provided either put this on consent agenda because it seems like it's just housekeeping, or to have a first reading and then so on. But this, as near as I can tell, is the first, but with possible action.
And that's my fault then, because I said, I know we had talked about it, but I think it was just a precursor to warn you that it was coming up. So this is for possible action. We don't have to take action. Current policy does indicate that if it's not included in a consent agenda, that it would be put forth in 2 subsequent meetings so that one could be discussed, any changes sent back, and the second meeting could be approval. So with that, are there any changes that any of the board members would like made to the policy as written? Well, as proposed, I should say. All right, hearing.
Could this have been just included in consent agenda? Because I feel like it could have.
It probably could have. If I recall correctly, when we were going through this when I was going through it with Mr. Anderson, there was discussion as to whether or not it was a timely manner, whether or not, and I think that's how that policy reads, is that timely situations or timely agenda items could be added on there when it was minor changes. This one isn't necessarily timely. When it first was brought to our attention, it was indicated that we were in violation of NRS, Nevada Revised Statutes. We cannot find anywhere that it says one way or the other. So we are not in violation of NRS. Therefore, it's simply a procedural issue that we've been doing incorrectly according to policy. In the past 2 meetings, I believe, we've since corrected that. So now the board president is signing the minutes until such time as this passes, in which time it'll go back to the secretary signing those. So it's not a pressing, timely issue. But the more I talk about it, the more I remember. And so I think that's why we put it on for possible action. I didn't want it to be a subjective decision of, oh, this is timely, and therefore put it on as a consent agenda when it really wasn't. But I did also want to give the board the ability to say, yeah, this is a simple one, we can pass it, or say, hey, let's bring it back up to the next meeting.
Yeah, I just want to make it clear. I have no problem with the policy itself or its changes. I just want to make sure we're doing it correctly.
Yep.
So as far as we've added electronically for invitation for bids, public works, do we want to add some sort of electronic for the secretary as well? Just leave it open. I mean, we're all signing electronically to buy houses and cars and all the things. Like, shouldn't we modernize ourselves a little bit too?
We
Can
certainly
we give the option? It doesn't have to be that it's only, but can we give the
Sure.
option in there?
Sure.
That's all I'm asking. So if she wants, if whomever is in that position wants to sign it with ink, then by all means, but if we can add electronically, then that can
Yes.
save some time too.
And I've been indicating that board secretary and kind of intimating that that was our board clerk. So both the president and the clerk, well, I guess the clerk now would have the ability to sign electronically. The board secretary, there may need to be a wet signature on the minutes, but we can certainly inquire that with legal. So I can put that back forth as a potential question.
There's the potential for cost savings, right, for paper and printing and all the things, and then both
Sure.
time wise, and then just modernizing into a digital signature as well. So.
Okay. And currently, our board secretary is Miss Cassie Gray.
Yep.
So just to make sure that everybody's aware of that, is not a board member. It is one of our staff members. So we'll go ahead and put that back before legal. Any additional suggested changes? With that, I would suggest that we not approve this at this time, since we need to get legal's opinion on whether or not the secretary needs a wet signature or an electronic signature will be sufficient. So we'll take no action on that. If that's sufficient to the board, we'll bring it back in 2 weeks. Moving forward to 2.08, receipt, review, and possible approval of proposed changes to policy BDDE, minutes of board meetings. This is the same as before, possible approval, because I didn't feel that it was exactly limiting or pressing. And what's interesting on this one is that BDDE apparently was blank before. There was nothing there. So this is the proposed language that has been approved by legal. And if I recall correctly, this pretty much takes it straight out of either NRS 241.035 or the Nevada Open Meeting Law Manual as approved by the Attorney General. So do we want to take any action on this, or do we want to bring this back forth in 2 weeks as well, or at the next meeting?
I'd suggest we bring it back just to be sure.
Perfect.
I appreciate that it says a record of each member's vote on any matter decided by vote, because I know there have been some minutes where it says that it passed and lists the number that it passed by, but it didn't, the minutes don't list who voted for which way.
Okay.
I believe I see that too. It's on unanimous votes, but you're right, it doesn't tell you the
Sometimes though,
number of them.
there've been where there's been one person that voted against it, and it says it passed 6-1, and it doesn't list who the one vote was in opposition.
For the record, I've always found my notes. They make it in there. I look for them. So
Okay.
Keeping track, sir.
I do keep track.
It was my no, that's why I know.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay, all right. Then we will bring that back as well. Okay. If I can find out which of my tabs I'm on, we'll now move into the consent agenda 3.01. This is for possible action.
Move to approve consent agenda. Second.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Dastrup and Dr. Byers. Has been moved and seconded. Any comment? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I'll vote aye as well. Motion passes. Mr. Anderson, are you still on the phone with us?
Yep, I am.
Perfect. Would you like to go into Superintendent Matters, or due to the nature of you maybe needing to drop off and or technology, do you want us just to understand that there's an enrollment report attached and an early out request?
Yeah, it's good to note that those are both on there. I'm happy to answer any questions about those. I'll also just briefly comment that won't talk too much about it because I know Jeff's going to discuss it a little bit too, but I just do want to mention that went to that NSBA conference last weekend, or no, the weekend before that one. And really good conference and opportunity. I don't know historically how much attendance there's been from Elko County trustees at that conference. I know it costs money to go places, but it was a very good conference. I appreciated I really appreciated the perspective of one of the keynote speakers regarding dignity as being one of the things that unfortunately is missing from our community, and treating others with dignity. And it really made me reflect on some of the ways I've interacted with certain people when there's been disagreements, and did a little bit of checking myself. Good opportunity for learning, and I plan to I've got some amends I think I need to make with some people. And then I also think that it's something that I want to make sure to bring back to our administrators as well, and make sure it finds its way into our practice. I love the way you guys just finished with JGH, like agree, disagree, whatever about certain aspects. There's a definite way to do things and treat others with dignity, and acknowledge that. And it's even more than just like, agreeing to disagree. It's acknowledging that everybody is not only gets to have an opinion, but that their opinion matters. And again, whether or not the things we do on every decision or on any decision reflect your opinion. I brought this up last time. Don't erroneously assume or proclaim that that has been ignored. Everybody's opinion matters, and you're welcome to have it. It's just sometimes we're in the unenviable position of making decisions that are going to be unpopular with people because they disagree, and that's okay. So I really appreciated that speaker. I also there was a certain session that I went to that I want to, they did a little game where you hold up a paddle of, is the thing that they're saying the superintendent's role or is it a board member's role? And I want to report that I got 100% on that game. So I don't know how that fits into my my next eval a year from now. I'm 100% on knowing what our roles are. So that's pretty awesome. And then just, yeah, really appreciated the time I got to hang with, hang is probably the wrong word. I apologize. To associate with Mr. Durham during that conference. Really, really good opportunities to discuss the content of what we were seeing and hearing. And I just want to, not that it will necessarily give you any reassurance or make you feel any better about some issues that we're having, but almost 100% of the issues that we see come through Elko County School District, be it about retirements or recruitment and vacancies, hot button issues, like whatever you pick it, it's going on almost everywhere else in the country. And so that's, for me, it's I don't say that so much to say, it's not all that bad, because, things still hurt and things still need to get better. But the reason I say that is because it shows the value of participating in things like the NSBA conference, like the superintendent meetings I go to, like the AASA conference, because there's power in discussing and communally seeking solutions to these things. In the end, you have to apply it to your own community in a certain way that fits your community, but the issues are largely one and the same. And so I really appreciate the opportunity to go to that, and I would encourage more board members to attend that next year if it's within their power to do so. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Anderson. Comments or questions from the board for our superintendent? All righty. Thank you again. Safe travels when you do come back. And again, thank you for representing the school district on the agenda or the committee that you're on in regards to whether or not it's what's that word I'm looking for? When something is validated. Come on, Mr. Anderson, what's that committee you're doing?
I'm on
Seeking accreditation.
Oh,
Thank you
accreditation,
for,
the thing I'm doing right now. Yes, for accreditation.
Yes, thank you. I just keep talking until it comes out. My wife loves it.
Yeah,
all right, thank you again.
Yeah, and the more I study this going into it, because there has had to be a lot of pre-work. I feel like even just the pre-work has been a professional development for me. So I think this is going to benefit us in the long run as well. So thank you for this opportunity also.
Great. All right. Thank you very much, sir. With that, we will move on to 5.01, which is items from the board members. Who would like to go first? I know Jeff's itching.
Yeah, I'll jump right in, actually, because that speaker, by the way, was Dr. Timothy Shriva. He's got a book here too that I'm looking for. If I can find real quick, I'll give him a plug on the book. But I do want to talk. Yeah, it's called Fully Alive and Discovering What Matters Most. He kind of summarized a little bit of that in his talk, but I also come away with this card. And on this side right here, it's called the Dignity Index. And what it's talking about and what he asked us to do was think about different situations, like the Middle East, for example, right now, applies to some of these. But I want you to all think about yourself and where you might lie on this scale of 1 to 8 and how you treat and interact with other people. Number 1, they're not even human. It's our moral duty to destroy them before they destroy us. Level 2, those people are evil. They're going to ruin our country if we let them. It's us or them. Number 3, we're the good people and they're the bad people. It's us versus them. Number 4, we're better than those people. They don't really belong. They're not one of us. Number 5, the other side has a right to be here and a right to be heard. It's their country too. Number 6, We always talk to the other side, searching for the values and interests we share. Level 7 would be we fully engage with the other side, discussing even values and interests we don't share, open to admitting mistakes and changing our minds. Number 8, each one of us is born with inherent worth, so we treat everyone with dignity, no matter what. Those different levels, it was kind of hard to think about where myself and where I lie on that scale and how I treat other people. And I want to strive to be number 8, to where I can get to everyone being able to, treat everybody with dignity, no matter what. Part of his discussion also dealt with building skills for dignified disagreement. Honoring someone's dignity can be difficult, especially when situations get heated. If you follow these steps when stress rises, and join the movement of Americans, easing divisions, preventing violence, and solving problems by choosing dignity over contempt. And how often do we get in discussions with people where we're talking to not to listen, but to try and convince on the other side? These tips are amazing. To be curious, not furious. When there's a disagreement, approach it with curiosity, using language that invites dialogue. Regulate, then debate. When you start to get upset, pause and take a breath before speaking. Listen to hear, not to respond. Really listen to the other person. Consider summarizing briefly what you've heard before responding. Challenge ideas. Don't attack people. Speak your truth, but do it with dignity. Acknowledge knowledge. When someone else makes a logical or interesting point, acknowledge their point and build up rather than tear down. Advocate, explain, and build up your idea rather than just attacking others' ideas and or dehumanizing people. It was a really powerful talk. We got to listen to in ways that it seems like in the media and just even in like situations we deal here with, it's so divisive. It's us or them. And there's not that middle ground. And I just challenge every one of you to, if you can get anything out of this right now, to work on that, to respect other. You don't have to agree with other people to respect what their opinion is or where they come from. Everybody has a right to be here. Everybody has a right to live and to be an individual and to, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's what our country is founded on. I want to segue from that into the previous day's general session on Saturday. I got to hear from a civil rights icon. I didn't realize she'd still even be alive or around, but a woman by the name of Ruby Bridges. She was 6 years old in 1960. 6 years before the Supreme Court it was School Board versus Brown, I think was the case. Basically said, look, it's unconstitutional to have segregated schools. You can't have a whites only school and a separate school. And they gave him 6 years to integrate. Well, Ruby Bridges was a little girl who ended up being the first African-American child to integrate into an all-white school. And to hear her story from a firsthand account was just amazing. She was a 6-year-old little girl, was born, I believe, in Mississippi, but moved at a very young age to New Orleans. She was one of 6 children. They when the school board decided they were going to integrate, they gave a test to all these kids, and it basically eliminated everybody, but there was 6 kids that passed it. And her parents, her dad was really against it at first, but her mom talked him into it, and it cost him a lot personally. Her father was fired from his job. The grocery store where they went to go shopping wouldn't allow him to shop there anymore. All this over a kid going to school. And it blows my mind a little bit that that's somebody I was able to talk to, that happened to that person. We're not that far removed. But one thing she pressed was that her father wasn't around to see it, but they made a ton of sacrifices. And let me jump back to where I was on that. But one of the quotes she said was, "We may not see the change we're hoping for in our time, but we must continue to fight, because the sacrifices that they made, that her dad made for her, ended up paying off." remember reading, she got to visit the White House with President Obama. She was also the subject of a Norman Rockwell painting. And as they're standing there looking at the painting, he said to her, "Hey, thank you, for what you've done, or you and I might not be standing here talking today." It's a story that I encourage you, if you're not familiar with, just the Wikipedia on it's really good. Her name's Ruby Bridges. But it's a really good lesson on how not far removed we are from those times. And it's all up to each and every one of us to move forward and not backward on that. Those were the two main presentations that we had, and the place was enormous. I'd never been to the convention center there in New Orleans, but it was, I can't even put a number on the square footage or the number of people in there. It's the biggest single room I've ever been in, and I've been a lot of places. But we had some breakout sessions. I talked about going to those, and I won't get too deep into them about navigating sensitive issues and navigating political storms. But as Superintendent Anderson said, there's nothing that hasn't happened to us here that hasn't happened to someone all over the country. And a little, if you're at all curious, look into the Whitefish School District in Montana. They went through some similar troubles like our school board did during COVID. And the way they handled it was really cool. Let's see what else I want to cover here. Lastly was AI. I went to both a class on how to utilize AI. I also went to a luncheon with the NEA where basically they asked us questions, handed out a microphone, and then people from all over there were about 25 of us, different trustees from all over the country. And I heard lots of really cool ideas of how they're using artificial intelligence in schools. And there's also a lot of worry to it. I did bring that policy book back for you. They do have a sample policy for artificial intelligence and how we handle that as a district. But it's also something I think we can look into, especially like in building the new school here. There was a trustee that I spoke to from Flagstaff, Arizona, that talked about they're really on the cutting edge of AI, and they have their camera systems and things are tied in with AI where they can recognize crowd patterns, and it'll actually tell them if there's a fight or something like that going on in school. It's linked in with vape detectors that they have in the bathroom. So although they don't film who's coming in the bathroom, they know it'll automatically set up. So there's some neat systems that way. Also for controlling heating and cooling, for doing the lighting. Artificial intelligence is really widespread. It's going to be really interesting to see how that shapes education, and it's going to change things. It's probably one of the single biggest things, since the internet came out, that's going to come over. But if you use any kind of navigation or just anything, you're using AI in your everyday life, and to see some of the ways that they're integrating that into the school was really neat. So I do encourage anyone. I went to the conference a little skeptical because, as many of you know, I'm pretty cheap, and it wasn't. But coming out of it, I feel like the information was really valuable. The people that I got to talk to, and I would encourage anybody who's able to next year. It'll be in Atlanta, right around the same time. I have the dates, but I believe it's first weekend in April. That'll be in Atlanta next year. So I urge and encourage all of you to go to that. But it was a great conference overall. Aside from that, just as a board member comment too, I want to thank our student board member for your perspective there on Battleborn Academy and your experience. That's something I was really glad to hear, that you feel like you've gotten positive out of that and being able to move forward and continue on with the military and with your medical assistant training. And I think that's great. Just please keep it up. And then seeing the young man with the insulation and his scientific process, I like what I'm seeing up here. So, and lastly, I want to thank everybody here in Hawaii for the hospitality, for the great dinner and everything. And as I told them, props on the new potato recipe. That was good stuff. So that's all I have today.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. Who wants to follow that one up?
I'm just gonna say thanks for welcoming us and having us here. That's it. Thank you.
I agree. It's been a great time. This is my first time at the school. Last year when we had the meeting here, I was at the hospital in Utah with my mom, so I didn't get to make it. So I was really happy to come today, and what a great welcome. And then also Gracie, our board member, I just want to commend this young lady and her courage to come out of her comfort zone and go experience something new, to experience some growth and just help herself become the person that she wanted to be or wants to be and move forward in that way. And I think that that's something that we all should strive for. And the example that you're setting for those around you is amazing. And so I just want to commend you for that.
Thank you. Josh, Susan? Alrighty. Then I'll just kind of let the board know, and I guess fair warning to the public at some point, hopefully before January of 2025, we will have a policy in regards to AI and technology. In the past 2 weeks, Jeff is the third board member who has brought to my attention issues dealing with AI and or technology, including the use of cellular phones. In that same period, without looking for it, without prompting, through the different things that I read and I experience, I've had 4 different articles that have come up in regards to AI, in regards to deep fake, in regards to other uses of technology that are occurring in schools across our country that are very concerning. And we really should, we owe it to our students to try to be ahead of this as much as possible, because we're never going to be able to catch up to the rate it's going. But if we can at least try to put some things in place now, that's my goal. So I will work with our professional teams and with our legal teams to start drafting something. There are some policies that are already out there that we may be able to copy and bring back before the board. But I did just want to let the board know that I have heard that, I have seen that coming through. And so be prepared for that. And also, of course, let the public know that we are hearing this, we are aware of it, and we will be going from there. And just be on the lookout. We'll give advance notice like we have. I think this board has done a good job of trying to make sure that we let our constituents know what it is that we're doing, so that we can take their comments in and we can hear what it is that they're saying, and hopefully be able to draft a better policy for our community with those ideas. So with that, I'll end that there. Go ahead,
I
Jeff.
forgot, there's one more thing too. I wanted to mention the groundbreaking coming up here on the 26th, I believe at 10 in the morning. That coincides with the with our NASB meetings down in Vegas. But I'll be attending that here. I'll be here in Hawaii for that, and then doing the remote Zoom for the NASB meeting that night. I'll be missing the professional development, but I want to let y'all know on that if there was anybody else that was wanting to go catch that. I know you were looking
I'm
at
gonna come
that.
here.
You come here too. Okay. But yeah, I feel like being up here is where I want to be.
There will be opportunities for carpooling, as I know we have a number of district officials that will be going, as well as some board members. So we can generate some savings if we're all carpooling, and we can go from there. I'll also look at something else in regards to policy on carpooling, on using district vehicles, et cetera, and bring that back up for the board as well. And that will be specific to board members as employees of the district. Don't worry, district employees, we're not changing that side of things. So at least that's not the intent. Okay.
I like the truck.
So with that said, we'll now move into 6.01 accounts, approval of accounts payable. This is for possible action.
I move to approve accounts payable April 16th, 2024.
Second.
All righty, I lost track of where I was again. So 6.01, and that was Brooke and Josh. Josh seconded, or did I have that backwards?
Seconded, yeah.
Perfect.
Brooks motion.
Okay. All right. Any discussion? No disclosures of record?
I will just disclose I have a family member who is employed by Wellsboro Electric that I will not be abstaining.
And I will also disclose that I have a family member who works for Wellsboro Electric that will also not be abstaining.
Terrific. Anything else? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I vote aye as well. Motion passes.
I move to approve board member reimbursement.
Second.
I'll be abstaining. That's me.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion or disclosures? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? I vote aye as well. Motion passes. For the record, that was Teresa made the motion, Brooke seconded. Perfect. All right. Okay, we are at 7.01, the meeting closing. This is input from the public. This is the final opportunity to address the board if there's anything that would like to be raised. All right. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to make a correction to the time of the event.
It's 11.
On Friday, April 26th, 10 p.m. Pacific, yes, 11 Mountain Time.
Thank you.
So,
AM, right?
Yeah.
There are Mountain Time locally, so 11 p.m., or excuse me, 11 a.m. Mountain. And we do expect the governors from both the state of Nevada and the state of Idaho, and we would love to have you all in attendance as well.
Thank you. All right. Seeing no other public comment, we stand in adjournment and, oh, sorry. Yes, please.
Part of comment, during the time when I come to the parent teacher conference for the high school, there was a concern of some of the teachers that, you know, the kids with their cell phones, a lot of them are just on their phones and they're not really paying attention to the learning aspect of it all. And there's a policy in place that, that will improve some of the scores of the students because, you know, when they're distracted by this, you know, and it also has a lot of other things that happen to the body when you're just on that all the time, especially the kids who are learning their abilities to learn. It should be addressed to help students learn, especially in this rural area.
Thank you.
You know, this is like their boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. You take that away, like they're lost. But I think that control would be helpful to help these students. But that was just an issue when heritage and the teachers' concerns as well.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And just to let you know, that was part of that policy that we're looking at moving forward on is either enforcing it further or finding other ways that that might impact the students being able to access that anytime they want. So I appreciate that. Thank you. That's good validation that again, we're you know, thinking about things and moving in the same direction as what our you know, what some people have some concerns on. So I appreciate that.
So in the new school, you know, it'll probably zone it out. Is that what we're saying?
I don't know that we have that yet, but that's certainly things that we may have the opportunity to provide. It can be a tremendous tool,
Right.
but it can also be a tremendous distraction. So we appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, any additional comments? We stand in adjournment then until May. Thank you again very much for allowing us and welcoming us into your community. Yes, please.
Sorry, before you finish, I do have a presentation for the new school. I was asked to come down and do that. So I don't want to take up anybody's time, but.
So if you don't mind, we're going to adjourn the meeting so that it's not part of the public record unless you would specifically like it part of the record.
No.
Okay.
That's not it, yeah.
Perfect. Since it's not agendized, we won't put it as public comment because we'd also have to then limit you to about 3 minutes. So let's go ahead and stay behind and you're welcome to still give your presentation. We just won't have it on the meeting. Awesome. All right. Thank you very much. We are adjourned. That's right. I don't. Yeah. Susan, thank you for joining us. Mr. Anderson, safe travels back. Mac, I think we're finished here.